Hello and welcome to Coxie's Picks, and today we're going to be looking at this, a very secure mechanism that was copied off an old handcuff called the Brifield C2, and these are all various clones and everything else, but some are better than others. So this is the first clone version I got, which was quite cheap. I remember it was about £35 and it was made and sold and distributed by China, but you can see that the double lock spring is a little bit janky. The features are identical. It's a double lock that goes across, and we have a triple pull that is protected and secured by warding, plus some anti-shim at the front and at the rear that's integrated into the cuff body. It is quite clever. We have a unique bow structure. Right, the problem with this is you need to get it directly in line, otherwise it can lock. Right, and we also have a rudimentary flat edge on the bow to stop slipping when applying. So these were quite cool, and they are quite a difficult cuff to exploit. One of the things that they all share is that the double lock itself is a single bar and not a triple bar. The next version I got was what I really do like is the next torch version. The build quality on these is fantastic, and we also have the flat edge as well, plus the actual boss rivet. These go so smoothly, and it's very rare that these actually jam up because you've got it misaligned. You can see there that the bow did very minimal wiggle on the bow. Exactly the same idea, triple pull inside. Now this is the hinge variant. There is a chained variant as well, so let's move those two out of the way and then talk about the star of the bunch, which is the eurocuff. Currently I was able to get hold of these via Etsy, and there's a seller. I'll include a link, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to or not, to the seller, but these were a bargain at £25. So as you can see, we've got the same triple plate warding all the way through the cuff body, and if we come back over you can see it still runs through, and we also have that very unique bow structure which also has the two gaps to allow for the warding. Very clever system. Looking inside, we have the triple pull, right, separated by the warding, with a very small divot just at the rear to stop rear shimming, and then you come into the actual warding itself, which is raised to stop a shim coming all the way through. This is also at the front of the cuff. You can see that there is a slight rise in the cuff body, which wasn't present on the other two models, but also makes shimming very difficult. Then we look at the double lock bar itself. We can see that they've resorted to a solid bar, not that rudimentary spring that we had in the other copies, which is cool because that means that we now have a non-failure rate on this. The downside is it is one single bar which goes all the way through, which means it's easy to pick, but that then means that we have the difficulty of picking this. Now, to get this cuff open, we need all three pulls at the same time, as well as the double lock removed, which does prove a challenge when I show you what the actual key looks like. So this is the key. As you can see, we have all three separated by the warding, which means that we need to pick all three at the same time. Now, if you were to pick this one, then one, then one, and hope for a binding order, you're going to fail because it's a single spring mechanism contained within. What do I mean by that? Well, it's a single spring, but it's been split into three parts, which means that each pull actions independently. So if I just get this on camera, so one moves, the other one moves, right? Doesn't move any of the other two. And when we go, unlike Hyatt, where you can depress the center one and then all three move, that doesn't move. But then if you were to overforce on the center, you actually action that single spring and all three pulls lower. Really difficult to get to show on camera, but trust me, all three pulls lower when you overextend this. So I tried looking for an exploit on that, but unfortunately there isn't much of a gap. But the idea is that I will make a custom tool at some point that hopefully works. We're going to go through on the center rail and then push down on the middle spring, overextending. There isn't much of a gap. There's about 0.8 mil of a gap inside there, so it's going to be a very flimsy tool. And at the minute I haven't had a success rate. So how are we going to get this open? Well, I suppose the first thing we need to do is action the double lock like this. So there's the double lock, and we're going to use a trusty friend, a paper clip. You're going to take the paper clip and we're going to make that rudimentary hook by forming the S, bending it backwards and forwards like so, and then we're going to pick whichever one we want as the hook. There we are. like so. Now we've got a choice of 2 attacks. We can attack from both sides because it is an open keyway on both sides. So what I'll try and do now is demonstrate what we're going to do. You're going to aim in this corner and sweep over, but if you can get in the center of the cuff, that gives you the most options to try and lever it off. So you're going to go in about halfway, find where the actual, find where the bar is, and then nudge it across. It is quite simplistic to go through, and the warding actually helps guide your tool, which is kind of a flaw, but at the same time kind of cool for us when we're picking it. So now that we've picked it and we've got the single lock back in, how are we going to get out? Well, you can do this with several ways, but unfortunately, right, the most common way is we're going to shim it, but we have to shim it 3 times, which makes this really, really tricky to do. So you're going to make 3 shims, and I'm going to use paper clips, and they're all with the L sticking out, and we're going to capitalize on that fact that there's a 0.8mm gap. Now we need to remember that there is a ridge inside the cuff body, so if I just make this so that you can see the actual cuff extend. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to line it up into the warding until you feel a hard stop. There's 1 in position, get the other side in, 2 in position. As you can see now, this is starting to get a bit tricky, especially if we're wearing it, and get the 3rd one in until they're all at the same position and height. Now this is where it kind of gets, if you make the bends all roughly in the same place, it'll make your life a little bit easier. You're going to push down on all 3 and a 1/4 turn on the bow, and hopefully we'll get it into position. Everything will get stiff. Not quite there, and I've jammed the cuff. So let's just try again. Oh. And as you can see, like I said, it is exceptionally difficult. So let's reset, start again. Which, if you were wearing, you wouldn't be able to do naturally. So back over, get ourselves in position. 1, 2, and the 3rd one. There we go. We're going to push down on all 3 at the same time, and the cuff, and hopefully not jam it this time. There we go, that was much better. And then pulling it out, we should, something's not quite in position. Obviously everything's stiff, but now you can see the theory in practice. Now this is actually easier with bobby pins because bobby pins are very, very thin material. But I don't actually have any bobby pins to hand. As you can see, the success rate, we managed to shim the cuff completely open. Now, would I recommend these? Yes, they're a great fun challenge. Would I recommend them for law enforcement? Probably not, because they're janky, occasionally they all jam, and unfortunately, right, I don't think these would be NIJ certified because they're exceptionally light, and I reckon they would fail, right, on an officer's initial test because they jam so frequently with the boss moving that way through. It does take some practice to get used to this particular style of cuff, but if you just wanted to play around with them, yes, I highly recommend them. They're great fun, a bit of a challenge to pick and escape, but we all like a challenge. So thank you very much for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.